Okay, I've tried several times to make this video, so I'm going to narrow it down to one topic. It's windy today, so there might be some interference with the wind. I hope not, but it's pretty windy today. We'll see how it works. I'm going to narrow this down. I was going to talk about intoxicants and how humans have adapted to being intoxicated and dependent on some kind of intoxicant in order to function. But I'm going to narrow it down to one intoxicant, and it's on the ideas side. There are physical dependencies and addictions and stuff and intoxicants. I'm not going to talk about those. I'm not an expert on those, but I do have some experience with the intellectual side and what can get into your mind, into your head, as far as ideas and certain ways of thinking. All right. The primary one that everyone is concerned with, and they should be, is power. Is power addictive? Yeah. It's not addictive physically like a regular physical drug, but it can be a drug with some people, not all people, and it seems like most people really don't like having the responsibility of being in a position of power. Most people get tired of that sort of situation. They don't really want to be in that situation for very long. But they'll do it if they have to, or they get paid, and they'll tolerate it, but it burns them out. But there's a certain part of the population, which is usually a minority, that get addicted to power. So I'm going to talk about power in this video. Now, there's a lot of philosophers that talk about it. There's a lot of philosophers that say that's who we are as a species. We are searching and grasping for power. I think that's just a small minority of the population that are that way, and they're most likely predisposed to that addiction and that dependency and that intoxicant. And yeah, power can be intoxicating. It can be addictive mentally, okay? But it occurs in certain people that you can see in most cases. Hold on a second. You can see in most cases that that's the type of person they are, and we need to keep an eye out on those kind of people and not let them get positions of power. All right, easy to say, extremely difficult to do. And here, let me explain why. People create structures of power which are necessary for the functioning of society. It's inevitable. We have to have structures that have people in positions of responsibility and power and make decisions. Okay, we have to have that in society. A small minority will take that and grab onto it. They'll see it. Society needs people who are powerful to direct us or to lead, but they'll grab onto that and say, now that avenue is something that can feed my desire for that drug. Now, how does power work? In my experience, and I'm prior military, so I have a little bit of experience in that. I was given power in the military, so I understand the responsibilities and all that. But the one important thing about a power structure is that people who obtain positions of power are groomed. Everybody who has a position of power is groomed in some way. Grooming means you are trained or you're selected so that you are, or you have demonstrated your ability to lead or to guide or instruct or somehow establish order and smooth functioning of whatever you're in charge of and that kind of thing. All right? You're groomed for that. You're selected for that. As you rise up the hierarchy of power, you can't do that without other people involved, and especially those that have more power than you are going to groom you and make sure that you're able to handle that position. All right? The people that are minorities, that in the minority, with the mindset that they can become addicted to power, are exactly the ones that shouldn't be in power. We need to keep an eye on those people and make sure that their influence is small, within small areas, that they can't do much harm. All right? That's inevitable. They're gonna grab onto those. They're gonna make a power grab somewhere. They have to. That's their drug. They have to get it. So they'll latch onto something. And usually it starts at the lower levels. Okay. So they can, if they operate on the lower level and they're not doing much harm because they're addicts, they're going to be unpredictable and erratic and dangerous. If they're at the level where they can't do much harm, it can be managed, and it won't matter too much. Okay. But once they start to gain the tolerance for it, they want more and more and more. Most people are not like that. Most people, they get into a position of power and they realize that it's kind of hard work and a lot of responsibility, and it wears on you. It takes its toll. It's actually very, very difficult. But there's a small population that feeds off of that, and they don't consider it difficult, they don't consider it stressful, they don't consider it anything except fulfilling, and they become like an addict. They become used to that level, and that's their normal. They feel good. They can tolerate lots of stuff that comes their way, and it doesn't wear them out because they become used to that, and they feel normal. I've seen people in positions of power, and if you look at them, they don't look intoxicated or dependent upon it. I've seen people in positions of power that have personality traits that allow them to become addicted to it. Okay, I've seen those people. I've seen people who are not like that. The people who are comfortable in positions of power either have lots of experience and they're okay with it, or they're addicts and they're just cruising at their what I call their normal. Well, an addict, what happens with a physical addiction, many times you can't tell if they're intoxicated. Whereas a normal person will act kind of goofy or something's off. Addicts many times function just normally, and they appear normal while heavily intoxicated. That happens with positions of power. And people in positions of power, they don't look like they're addicts. And they can handle a job and all that stuff. They can even handle stuff that most people can't handle, as far as criticisms and all that. That doesn't bother them. All right, on a superficial level, it doesn't bother them. Now, during the grooming process is where we can control this situation, to where those people that are addicts, power addicts, don't rise up the food chain. We can groom them out. We can make sure that during the grooming process we weed them out. And we can't do that unless we're strong and rational and know the signs and symptoms and all that. One of the biggest signs of someone who shouldn't be in positions of power is the one who starts to suffocate if they lose power. They feel like they're going through withdrawal symptoms. They don't breathe a sigh of relief like, okay, well, I'm going to delegate this power to you and it relieves me. No, they don't want to delegate. they want to snatch it up. They want to control everything because that's what feeds them. Those are the people we need to groom out of the process, which is very, very difficult because they appear normal. But one of the signs, like I said, is that they will become erratic, emotional, unstable. You will see rage building up. You will see sometimes they withdraw and they start to scheme, and they'll change their tactics a little bit. So there's some extremes where they become enraged, and there's some that'll go behind the scenes and sabotage, and some will do both. All right, but you can see once they start to lose power, they get unstable. It throws them off. They hate that. That's how you know. We need to weed those people out of positions of power and not vote for them, as an example. Which means we need to be vigilant and watch. Now, in today's society, there are more and more tools now for people to use to obtain positions of power, more than any other time in history. Before, it was just like now, you need physical strength, physical appearance, a lot of physical traits in order to attain a position of power. But technology has become one of the best tools that has ever been devised. I mean, one of the things that is extremely useful for people that are addicted to power to gain power. And it's no coincidence that online exposure is what they are clinging on to when they start. They'll start these little online fiefdoms. They'll obtain followers online. They'll hone their little niche or little niche and have a core base that they can rely on to branch out and obtain higher positions of power and influence. So they start as a group, a leader of a group. Those groups usually are cultish, but not always. Sometimes it starts normal looking, but they will eventually try to get into politics because that's where all the power lies at the highest levels. That's their main goal, to obtain as much power as they can, because just like an addict, they want more and more. They become used to more and more, and they can't really help themselves. Now, as a society, it's very difficult to change once it starts. Once those kinds of people who are addicted to power gain positions of power like we see today, it's very, very difficult to change that situation. The only way forward that I see to change the situation is to become more rational. And everything that you can try to do to become more rational is going to help weed those people out. The first thing is spot who they are. They become, they go through withdrawal symptoms if they don't have power. If you deny them power, or if you threaten them somehow, they become different people, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? The doctor is calm, professional, knowledgeable, skilled, and capable. But once you start taking away that power, they become Mr. Hyde, right? Mr. Hyde is the monster. We can't let those people continue. There has to be a vigilance. And we really are not able to see that unless we are rational. So it's important. I think the most important thing for our brains is to become rational. We can see these irrational types. Now, they don't want anyone to see who they are. Many of them are completely masked because they know that they are not to be recognized for who they are on the inside. So they have all these ways of masking their behavior, of excusing their behavior. If they become enraged at the loss of power, they have a way to either control how they look on the outside, or make excuses for themselves, or have a structure that excuses their bad behavior. It's very difficult to deal with them. And it becomes more and more difficult as they rise in positions of power. We are at that stage now where a minority of people who are addicted to this type of psychological drug are in high positions of power. There are two avenues that I can see, at least, as a solution. They will eventually crash the system, and then we can see, well, they were useless. We don't want that to happen, although that's one solution. They will eventually crash the system. The other solution is to become more rational and accept that these people exist, and we need to know how to groom them out of the process, which means that normal, rational people have to take their place and become involved. And I know for normal people, taking on responsibility and making difficult decisions and becoming groomed and entering the process of grooming is very, very stressful for normal people. But we have to do it. We have to speak out too and teach each other how to do this. Now, normal people can become susceptible to this power addiction. All right. So we can't expect too much from normal people. If they get burned out, okay, it's understandable. We're not looking for someone who's going to be there forever. You can move out of the position and there'll be someone else, hopefully rational, that'll take the reins and continue. That would be the perfect situation. Rotate normal people in and out of these positions. Another way you can tell a person who is addicted to power is they want to stay there forever. It's not normal. They're not affected by stress and all these other things. And power actually can enslave you and demand from you things that normal people would be crushed by. The routines, the appearances, the speaking, the personal fronts that people put on. You have to always be showing yourself as confident and capable and well-spoken and that kind of thing. Most normal people get worn out by this kind of stuff because they just want to relax sometimes. They don't want to always be making the decisions. It wears them out. But we have to do it. Yeah, we're going to have to do it if we want to avoid the system crash, because it's coming if we don't do something about it. Yeah, like I said, I've tried to do this video. This is a third attempt. It's important to study the personality type of narcissists, pathological narcissists in particular, because they will latch on to this kind of thing, and it feeds their brain. Their brains are suited for this kind of stuff, and I think humans have developed so that some of these people are in existence in our population and most people are not. It's kind of a functioning system in a way. There are people who want positions of power, and we tend to say, okay, you can have it, because we don't really want to deal with it. It's too difficult. You seem to be immune to all this stuff that comes at you, and you can deal with it and still function. So we'll let you have that. They can tolerate all this stuff that would normally crush a normal human being, and you seemed like you want to be in that position forever. Okay, maybe we should let you be in that position forever. But no. Some philosophers and some people say that the best people in positions of power are the ones that are ruthless and cutthroat, because they're dealing with people who are ruthless and cutthroats. Why not? Why not have our own ruthless people to deal with other ruthless people? No, the way to deal with ruthless people is to weed them out of the grooming process. The grooming process, finding leaders, finding competent people, is the way to change the situation, is to make sure we're monitoring that process of grooming these people so they don't get into positions of power. Weed them out. Now, there's going to be a lot of screaming and fighting and gnashing of teeth, as they say, when this happens. It just creates a big ruckus among that group of people who want power. They're going to scream and holler, and it's going to be a lot of background noise that will drive most people crazy. So we say, okay, you can have the position of power, and then that dies down. And then we say, oh, well, it's peaceful now. All right, we'll let them have their way, because they're not screaming. We don't hear that background noise. We don't hear all that, or we don't see all that commotion that's driving us nuts. We give them the power. And children are kind of like this too. They create a racket, and they make everyone miserable until they get their way, and then they're quiet. And then us dealing with them go, okay, finally some peace. But don't fall for that. It's hard. It really is hard. But being rational is the first step. Recognizing that is the second step. And then strengthening yourself, and then actually move into positions of power as a rational person is the way to deal with it. That's the way to deal with it. And unfortunately, many of those people will never change and can never change. We need to just have them at the lower levels doing what they do. They're going to make some people miserable, but they need to be prevented from making everybody miserable, because there's never a limit. I mean, there's never enough for them. And when reality starts to deny them power, and not us, when reality starts to deny them power, they go through the same withdrawal symptoms. They go through the rage and the scheming, and they'll attack their opponents with lethal force, and they'll try to wipe out everything that reality is throwing them. They'll try to change reality. They'll try to create new realities and rebel against reality, because eventually reality is going to catch up to them the higher they go. They can't do a lot of the things that they want to do. They feel like, all right, reality and truth and life is in their way now. After a while, it's not just people who are in their way, it's reality. And that's when we are in trouble, and that's when everything crashes. They can't beat reality. They will try, and they will become enraged, and they will turn into Mr. Hyde when they realize that that they can't go any further, and it feels like they're suffocating. And we all have to pay the price. They will make us all pay the price for reality in life. They can't defeat reality. They can't defeat truth. They will try, and that we're seeing this in any powerful society. We will see how they are trying to defeat reality. And once they start doing that is when everything starts to go south, so to speak. We're approaching that. Other countries have gone through that throughout history. All civilizations go through that when the leaders realize that they cannot go any further and they want to change reality. It eventually causes a crash. It's not a mystery why some civilizations disappear. It's not a mystery. They'll say it, historians will say, why did this civilization crash? Why did these people leave these cities? Why did they disappear? It's because the leaders that are these addicted to power type leaders hit the wall of reality and fight against reality and end up destroying everything, because if they can't have what they want, nobody can have anything. They will get that bad, and that's when civilizations fall. It's not a mystery. In my opinion, that's why ancient civilizations that we've seen and modern civilizations, they crash. All right. So that's it on that topic. I might discuss it more later. We'll see. But yeah, we need to keep them out of the process by grooming, by rational laws. We have to be law-abiding, and then we have to make sure that they are law-abiding. They're not going to want to be law-abiding, but we need to make sure that the law is important in our society. All right? The law is very important. They will latch on to the law as well and manipulate it and change it and try to create immunity for themselves, and we can't let that happen. There are more normal people than these power susceptible, or these people who are susceptible to the addiction of power. There are more of us than them. So we don't have an excuse. We don't have an excuse really, except a lot of us can't handle anything more than we're already handling. And the funny thing is, they know this. They will make our lives difficult so we can't challenge them. It's a vicious thing. But yeah, we need to be mentally healthy, physically healthy, and then accepting of responsibility. We have to learn how to accept responsibility and deal with it, at least for a little while, and help others move into the situations when we get burned out. Okay? We can rotate people in and out of positions of power. That's the solution. Okay, I think that's it. Alright, I'll upload this video and I'll review it and see what happens. Alright, see you next time.